We're here in the Peak District. We spent the whole of yesterday riding around on a 1930 BSA Sloper and a Triumph Tiger 100, a 1939 model. We're trying to have a look, we're trying to see what it was like for riders, adventure travellers, riding around the world maybe 70, 80 years ago, even 100 years ago in some cases. And these are the closest sort of bikes you can get to what they were using. Hardtails, girder fork at the front. And we're riding around on trails that people were still riding around 100 years ago in the Peak District. So we're kind of having our own little taste of their adventure. And after a day, it's kind of proved that it's actually quite hard. Some of the trails we've been riding on are pretty easy, but the bikes are shaking you to pieces. But it kind of forces you to slow down a bit, enjoy the countryside, and they're beautiful machines, beautiful, absolutely beautiful machines. The BSA is a hand shift, so that's a little bit tricky, especially when you're flying off-road at 10 miles per hour, 5 miles per hour really, and you're looking down to change gear. It's a strange experience, but the bikes kind of take you back in time, obviously. And the Peak District's obviously a really beautiful place to ride, and there are plenty of trails. And we've been going around with Boyd from Overlander Trail Tours, who knows the Peak District like the back of his hand. He's a bit of an expert rider on his KTM. He's shown us loads of really beautiful trails and some easier ones. There's been some river crossings, and we've had an amazing day riding these bikes. It's proved that it's actually pretty hard. I mean, we've wild camped, we've made a fire, we sharpened some sticks. Yeah, it's just we're kind of trying to go back in time, have a taste of what it's like for those guys riding back then. It's pretty hard, but pretty amazing at the same time. So in typical classic bike fashion, a mile down the road, one of the cables sheared off the advanced retard lever on the Triumph.
This is the advanced retard. This is the advanced retard.
But luckily we found a mechanic just down the road, and it cost a couple of quid to solder it back together. I had a little bit of trouble starting the BSA, only a little bit of trouble.
The difference between the two bikes is quite remarkable in that they're only 10 years apart, but the BSA seems much older. It's got acetylene lights, it's got open valve gear, things like that, whereas the Triumph has got foot shift. It's a much more refined ride than the BSA, because the BSA's also got hand shift as well. Yeah, and the Triumph's a twin. So 10 years in these two bikes, it really does make a big difference. They're quite a world apart, really. It's a real eye-opener for what these people did on these bikes 75 years ago. It's just a remarkable achievement that these people managed to travel around the world in these things on roads probably no better than we've been riding for the past day, and to camp like this, you know, wild camping, and then pack it all up and do it all the next day and the next day, and it's just a remarkable achievement these kind of people have made.
When we were riding down those trails, we saw Boyd, who's on his KTM 450, flying off, standing up on the pegs, kicking up stones like it was nothing, while we're really far back, struggling, looking at negotiating the smallest ruts. So it really makes you appreciate how hard these guys had it back then, and these are only light trails in the Peak District. I can't imagine how they're riding through India and Iraq on these sort of bikes back then. Really hits it home that they had a pretty tough time.